Well, like Dixie said, my name is Svetlana Lucas, and I am here tonight to talk to you informally about how to advocate for your gifted child. I teach at Lamar County School District, where I'm responsible for 52 gifted learners, and I also teach at William Carey University, where I prepare in-service teachers or teachers that are currently in the classroom for gifted teaching. You know, they're either in the classroom and trying to transition to gifted, or they're thinking about a gifted endorsement for their master's level program. Like Dixie said, I am a parent of a gifted child, and I think that's my most difficult and most challenging and most rewarding role, and you know why. So, I came to this quite honestly because I parent alone, and I was trying to figure out how to stimulate, how to encourage, how to empower, how to advocate for my son. And I thought about, since I'm a gifted teacher, I need to be more involved with advocating for my child. Because at the base of it, on the foundation level, it is my responsibility to make sure my child is getting what he needs. It is your responsibility to make sure your children or your child gets what they need. And so, hence, this particular presentation was born, and tonight we're going to spend about 30 minutes or so talking about advocating for your child in two different ways, a global way and an individual way. Okay? So, if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end, but if it's a burning question, I'll answer it right then, because I'm a teacher and I understand and I know how to go with the flow. First of all, let's talk about what advocacy is. Advocacy opens up doors that don't formally exist. Advocacy knocks down barriers. Advocacy is simple persuasion. What you're trying to do is to get this person or this group or this entity to do what you want them to do, not necessarily because they want to do it, because it's a needful thing. That's key. It's a needful thing. Because if you know about the man versus Goliath, David versus Goliath, it can be quite intimidating to come up to a school district or to talk to an administrator or to talk to a gifted educator and say, you know, my child is really not doing this or that or the other in your classroom, and I would like to talk to you about changing this or modifying that or adding this or tweaking that. It takes a lot of guts to do that. So here's my point. I want to teach you how to do that in a way that is appropriate, a way that is professional, and a way that gets results. If you are an advocate, you have to influence the policy. It does you no good as a parent, it does you no good as a parent group to just make a wave here and there. You have to influence the policy, and as you influence the policy, you become the voice for a gifted child. You become the speaker, the microphone for that child, and to do that, you have to be involved. So you ask yourself, on the basis of everything, what does your division's gifted program say should be happening to your gifted child? What things are required? Do you have a program that's full of field trips? Do you have a program that's full of community experiences? Do you have a program that's full of, I don't know, doing activities? Do you have a program that's hands-on? Do you have a program that's more scientifically based? What kind of program do you have? Because you, as a parent, need to know and need to be aware, lockstep with the educators, to find out if what they say should happen is actually happening. Because sometimes, through no fault of our own, because I'm a teacher, you know, we have this great plan, and when we get to the classroom, the plan turns into this little neat box of stuff that we say, ah, we did it, yay. Okay, so as a parent, we need to hold the teachers, the educators, the system accountable, and to do that, we need to be the squeaky wheel. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man, and he had a donkey. He wanted to go to the market with his son, and so on the way to the market, there was a man, there was a boy, and there was a donkey. And they were walking along, and somebody saw them walking, an older lady, and she said, "Oh, Shame on you, young boy. You're allowing your dad to walk. You shouldn't let your dad walk. You shouldn't be on the donkey. You should let your dad get on the donkey. And so the boy said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll switch. So immediately the boy got off the donkey and he put his dad up there, and so they traveled a little further. Well, they traveled a little further and a farmer saw it. So now we got the dad is on the donkey and the boy's walking. And the farmer said, how could you be a decent parent? You are sitting on the donkey and your child is walking. What kind of parent are you? And the man said, well, I guess I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I should adjust some things. So the man immediately got off the donkey and he said, well, son, I guess we should put you back on. And Dad said, well, remember, I don't want to disrespect you, so I don't know what to do. So they said, well, let's just walk a little bit and think about it. So they walked a little bit more, and somebody came up and said, y'all are not too bright. You're going to town, which is a long way, and neither one of y'all are on the donkey. And so they said, well, that makes sense. So they both decided to get on the donkey. So now there's a man and his son, and they're on the donkey going to town. So as things would be, they've traveled a little bit further, and someone said, we support animals. This is cruel. How can two of you able-bodied people get on the donkey and put this weight on the donkey all the way into town? So they went a few more steps and they got off the donkey. They put the donkey in ropes and then they carried the donkey all the way into town. Okay? What's the purpose of this story? The purpose of this story is that you have to be involved, because if you're not involved, any old thing will do. Anybody's perspective will go, and then as a result of that, any old thing will happen. We can't afford to do that. We can't afford to let the instructional policy just happen any old way. That's not helpful, that's not needful, and that's not a prudent use of our greatest resource, and that would be our children. So, it's your job to advocate for your gifted child. You know your child best. You know when they come home they've had a great day. You know if when they come home they've had a terrible day. You know if someone has squished them just a little bit and they're lacking confidence. So as a parent, advocate, get in there, speak up, be the squeaky wheel, because you know both their strengths and you know if someone squished them a little bit and it's around their weakness, you know that they may need to be squished a little bit, to be encouraged, to be pulled up, to be brought to another level. But you know the difference between the two. And the teacher doesn't necessarily know the difference. The teacher loves your child. The teacher wants to put everything into your child, but only you know what the levels are, what the limits are, and what's going to help. So get in there and speak. The bottom line is, everybody, if you don't speak for the children, who will? Who will? If you don't speak for them, who will? So, 3 things that you need to do, no matter what, no matter if you're doing it systemically or system-wide. You need to learn what's going on at that school. You need to read everything you can about gifted education. Read the National Association for Gifted Children's parent newsletter. It's online, the National Association for Gifted Children's parent newsletter. Read the materials that come home with your child from your gifted teacher, newsletters and things like that. Hook into the Mississippi Association for Gifted Children's website and see what we're doing at the capital level, see what we're doing in the classroom, and see what we're also doing here in the grassroots level with the parents. And the last thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're networking. It's okay to go up a couple of grades and say, well, what happened with your child? What about this teacher? What experience did they have?
My name is Svetlana.
Hold on. We'll let her, this girl talk. She's really awesome. We'll let her talk.
I'm also serving currently as the parent affiliate chairperson for the Mississippi Association of Gifted Children. Today I'd like to talk to you about the basic steps you need to do in order to start your very own parent advocacy group. Congratulations! You've decided to start a parent advocacy group to support your gifted learners in your district. Now, when you think about a parent advocacy group, there are 8 basic steps that you need to consider as you move in this journey to support your learners. The first 3 things that you need to consider are, number 1, establish a core group. Number 2, find a group that you may collaborate with. And number 3, partner with your state affiliate organization. In this case, the Mississippi Association for Gifted Children. Now that you've completed the initial startup tasks to form your parent advocacy group, you need to start thinking about steps 4 and 5. Step number 4 requires you to start thinking about meetings. Who, what, where, when, and why. And step 5, similarly, has you think about what structured presentations will you have in your meetings. The next 2 steps, step 6 and step 7, are actually where your advocacy begins. Step 6 is developing a blueprint for your group's development. And step 7, a really important step, is to keep the school informed. The last and final step is to expand gradually. And this step is really important to honor your successes. Don't be in such a hurry to have a great parent advocate.
I'm a teacher. I can deal with this. That video is something that I wanted to share with you because it is part of what we have on the website. It tells you about starting your parent advocacy group. It gives you the 8 steps that you need. And also, I was talking about learn, I talked about read, and I was talking about network. If you don't have time to find somebody, if you don't have time to go and do all this reading, you can go to the MAGC website, and there's a video library that 3 of us did in Lamar County to support what you do as parents. The first video is that snippet that you saw there. The second one is establishing your parent group identity, because maybe your parent group wants to be focused on raising money. Money is good for teachers. Teachers need money. Maybe your parent group wants to be focused on curriculum advancement. They want to buy kits and they want to buy resources for the teachers. Maybe your advocacy group wants to focus on governmental affairs. You need to determine what your parent advocacy group is going to focus on, and then you need to run with it. The third video is about sustaining your parent affiliate group. Once you start a group, you need to keep it going. When people change, people move, kids graduate, kids move up, sometimes things wane. We can't allow the momentum to get lost because it's hard to work a job, raise a family, be a wife or a husband, take care of the kids, advocate at the school, make change, write things up, tell everybody, and bring everybody along with you. So we can't let that momentum go to waste. Now remember, everybody knows that the early bird catches the worm, right? But do you know that it's the second mouse that gets the cheese? Okay? Second mouse. So, as you go through this process, you need to be the second mouse. Talking about change here. If you're going to advocate for your child, be very clear about the level in which you're going to function. Are you going to do something that's system-wide? Are you going to advocate for change within the existing system? If you advocate for change within the existing system, then we're talking about parent groups. We're talking about organized activity that leads to change. On the other hand, if you're talking about systemic change, changing the system, you're talking about what I do for my child, what you do for your child, what she does for her child, and what he does for his child. So think about how you can be most effective. In Lamar County, we have a parent group. Lamar County is spread out over 4 areas. We have Baxterville, Purvis, Sumrall, and Oak Grove. So we have 4 little parent groups, but they fall under the umbrella of Lamar County. So that's pretty effective for us. Our parent group in Oak Grove is focused toward fundraising and money. Our parent group in Sumrall is focused toward teacher enrichment and curriculum. Our parent group in Baxterville is focused toward empowering the student, and our parent group in Purvis is focused toward doing a little bit of everything. So decide what you're going to do, because your efforts need to be useful. Okay, so you decided that you want to do a parent group. You've decided that you want to start off strong. The first thing you need to do if you're going to do a parent group is have some kind of informational meetings. Get the people together, talk to them, figure out what you're going to do. After you get a cadre of people, a group of people, start planning some action steps. Do we want to show up at PTO? Do we want to have a fair? Do we want to come and do a parent appreciation? What is it that we want to do? Because a group of organized people will do almost anything for you as long as they know that you have a vision. Then you're going to have to stretch yourself. You got all these ideas going on. You got all this information happening at the system-wide level. You need to think about your challenges. What is our gifted program known for in our district? What's the biggest problem that we have as parents of our children? What's the biggest thing that we want to have happen that is not really happening consistently per grade level over time? These are questions that you need to ask yourself as you prepare the system-wide change. And then, after you get these questions answered and then you ponder them sufficiently, get your information together. Meet with your group and go to the next level. I love this slide because when I was little, I was always told, don't be a hitchhiker. Don't put your thumb out. Don't get on the road and get in some strange person's car. But now it's okay to be a hitchhiker. Adults, kids, no. Okay? Hitchhiker, you need to get other people enlisted in your cause. So what if the person didn't have a gifted child? So what if the person has a gifted child at another grade level, or at another school, or at another district, or in another state? Find out what they're doing there. Bring it here. Find out what doesn't work there. Stop it here. Find out what the resources are there and encourage people to create those same things here. Remember, we're talking about system-wide. Get a guide. And whenever you get ready to breach a system, whenever you get ready to make change, you have to realize that there's going to be resistance. Correct? Right? All change is natural, but not all change is welcomed. And you have to be an advocate that says, okay, what is the lay of the land here? What is the procedure? What is the protocol? What things are smiled upon? What things are frowned upon? Because if you're working system-wide, you need to know how to work the process so you're not cut off at the gate. Remember, you don't want to be the first mouse. Full of energy, full of eagerness, full of ambition. Okay? Talk with your child. Talk with your child every day. Because if you talk with your child every day, you may find out that the things that you want to have happen as a parent are actually happening. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel, you just need to tweak it a little bit. Look at this little baby. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk to you about when you speak with your child is to speak about the words that you use when you decide to go to the school. Come on. There you go. Now, when you're talking to the child, remember, don't focus on the output. Focus on the process. It's really important here. You know your child's strengths and weaknesses, but does your child know his or her strengths and weaknesses? Even if your child has all A's, they have weaknesses. They have things that they don't do so well. They have things that they need help with. They have things that they need for you to stand up for them about. And if you talk to them, they will receive the changes that you make in good fashion. The worst possible thing that can happen if you're an advocate and you're doing system-wide change is you have all these parents together, you have all this wonderful stuff going on, and your kid is the one that stands up and says, "This stinks, I want it the way it used to be." Okay? Avoid that pitfall. Now this particular slide talks about our words. What happens to get the kids when they act out in the classroom? What's going on with them? They're what? Bored. Okay, as a parent, I know when my child is bored. He's going to act up or act out. And recently, I found out that he was reading, which is in and of itself not a bad thing, right? But when you're reading while the teacher's instructing and you have your book down here because you know you shouldn't be doing it, that's a problem. So, as an educator though, do I want to hear that some child is bored in my classroom? No, I don't. Because that tells me in nice words, you're the stinky teacher. You're not doing a great job. So when you go to the school and you're affecting system-wide change, don't use words like boredom or not really getting enough out of it or wish you could do something different. You want to use words like, my child is wanting more challenge in the classroom. Not that you're not doing anything, because you are doing a great job, but my child is seeking just a little bit more. Is there something I can help you with, or something I can suggest, or something my child can do? You want to use those neutral words that get the point across, but don't shut down the conversation. Okay, so I've talked to you about being an advocate, talking about the importance of being an advocate. Now I want to talk to you about systemic change, okay? In systemic change, it's different from system-wide change, because systemic change means making changes individually, one-on-one with that teacher, one-on-one working to make a difference. It's a very different process, namely because you're doing it alone. That can be intimidating. It can be threatening, but yet, it's still necessary. And remember, you don't want to be the first mouse. You want to be the second. So, know your limitations. If you're going to a classroom, you have a problem with your child, the reality is, as a parent advocate, you're probably going to lose about a year. Gas. Y'all gas. Say gas. Gas. Okay. Do you have a year to lose? No, you don't. But that's the reality. Simply because you can't come to me, classroom teacher, and say this, and I agree with you. That's given if I agree with you. If I don't agree with you, then I'm going to be resistant. That's going to make the process go a little bit longer. But if I agree with you, I've got to go to my principal. My principal's got to go to the superintendent. Superintendent's got to go to the board. The board's got to vote on it. There are timetables. The board's got to come back down and take it to the superintendent. It's okay. Superintendent's got to go to the principal. Say the principal's okay. Principal's got to go to the teacher. Teacher's got to talk to all her teacher friends. Teacher got to find stuff. And, oh, it's May. See you next year. And you got to start over all again. So remember, it's not a quick fix, but don't get discouraged. Keep going. Live in the now. If you can make a small, tiny change, that's good. Don't be paralyzed by inactivity. Don't make the problem so large that it becomes insurmountable. Focus on the child. Meet their needs now. Assume nothing. Just because Jenny had this terrible experience with this teacher doesn't mean you're going to have a terrible experience with the teacher. Okay? The teacher has to grow as well. And thank goodness for those growing teachers. I believe that all teachers want to grow. I believe that every teacher wakes up every day and says, oh, yawn, I'm so excited to go to work. I can't wait to teach them. I hope all their little light bulbs come on, and then I'm going to come home and do it again. Okay? So, since we think that way, we teachers, we think that way, we need to be encouraged. We need to be taught. Just because we have educational degrees don't mean we know everything. We need to be taught how to differentiate. We need to be taught how to find out what your child's strengths are in this area, and how to work with your child, and how to challenge your child, and how to mentor your child. That's where you come in. Now here's the tricky thing that happens to parent advocates, parents when they get ready to speak for their children. The school is a tricky place. You have to know the rules. If you don't follow the rules, they're going to dismiss your case on its face. It can be the best thing in the world, but if you don't follow the rules, they're going to dismiss you right away. You have to follow the hierarchy. This is where you waste time from the parent perspective, but from the teacher perspective, we're really not going to do anything that hasn't been sanctioned by the level above us, because we want to keep our bread and butter flowing. So we have to follow the hierarchical order. But you can use that as a parent if you're working for systemic change. You can use that as a parent to your best advantage. So, how do you use it to your best advantage? You might want to go in and talk to the gatekeepers, the secretaries, the friends, the husbands, the wives, the custodians, the principals, all of those collateral people that have a say in what happens in your classroom. So what if it's not official? You don't want it to be official right away. You want it to happen right now. If that helps you get to right now, then go ahead and do it. Really important here, if you're talking to people and it's not working, politely ask who to speak with next. Politely ask who to speak with next. Sometimes as parent advocates, we find that this is going nowhere and it's going nowhere fast. It's okay because maybe the person you're speaking with can't affect change at that level. You don't want to offend, you want to keep them in your corner, so you want to politely say, you know what, I appreciate so much everything that you're doing here, but it seems as if we've come to an impasse. Is it possible for me to talk to the next person? Because I think that they would greatly inform the discussion. Thank you. Okay? This is for, especially for the kids, the parents of the kids with the young gifted children, the K, the 1, or people in a district where the gifted program is kind of waning and waxing. Ask yourself, how are you identifying children? Because we've all had the experience of this kid is really smart. This kid is super smart. Why aren't they in the gifted program? They need a little bit more challenge. What's going on with them? Ask those questions. You don't have to be pointed, but ask the questions. And then in the regular classroom, because everything is not for the gifted teacher, but in the regular classroom, you may want to say, how are you differentiating for my child? How are you making this lesson challenging? How are you taking this lesson up a notch? How are you meeting my child's needs, but at the same time not making them the little tutor, the little guide, the little office helper, the little paper braider, and all those kinds of things? Because that's just no good. You may have to bring in alternative assignments. You may not want to do it, but what's the point here? Is it about your pride or is it about your child? It's about your child. So, if the teacher asks you to do that, don't sit back and say, well, that's her job. She's supposed to teach her. That's his job. What is he doing all day? If you want your child to succeed, be the second mouse. See, the children agree with me. Some of the teachers out there don't have information about gifted education. They may not know what it means to have a gifted child. Or, worse yet, in my opinion, as a parent, they may have a stereotypical view of a gifted child. Maybe your gifted child is twice exceptional, which means that maybe your gifted child has ADHD and is gifted. Maybe your gifted child has Asperger's syndrome and is gifted. Maybe your child has a specific learning disability and is gifted. Don't assume that your teacher knows all this. Don't assume that your child is turning in everything they need to turn in, because all of that fits into how your child is seen in the classroom and the degree to which the teacher will do stuff to help your child succeed. So go one-on-one and have an open dialogue, an open discussion that puts you on an even playing field, and it puts a teacher in a place of empowerment, not a place of defense. This one talks about explaining your concerns, and I don't want to belabor the point here, but remember, you're talking as one-on-one, you're talking systemically, and when you talk about your concerns with your teacher as an advocate, and this is at either level, I think, you need to bring in samples of work. The teachers come to parent-teacher conferences with their folder of materials in their grade book, right? So if you're going to ask them to do something different in the classroom, you need to bring in samples to say, you know, what about this? What do you think about this? What do you think is going on here? You already know what's going on. But you want them in the conversation. You want to empower them. You want to give them a chance to look at the papers and say, wow, when you lay it all out like this, it really makes a lot of sense. But I'm monitoring 30 kids. I'm monitoring 5 different classes. I didn't see this connection. It's very important. If you're unsatisfied, offer compelling reasons why this level of instruction is insufficient. Remember, you want it to be successful. You want it to be as now as possible. So when you give compelling reasons, you fall back on your conversations, your learning, your reading, and your networking, and you don't use I feel, I think, it would be better for us. You use things like, well, you know, the National Association for Gifted Children says blah, blah, blah. When I was talking with the Mississippi Association for Gifted Children or surfing their website, I found out blah, blah, blah. Gifted learners really respond this way because, did you see that article in the newspaper? They said blah, blah, blah. Teachers respond to data. Teachers respond to research. Teachers respond to protocol and precedents. In order to be most effective with them, especially at an individual level, because there's not a group of you, you need to talk to them in those words. Because you want to be heard. Okay, so you tried the parent group, you're an avid member of your parent group, everything is working fine, and you decide that this parent group is working really great, I'm going with system-wide change, but I want to do something systemically, I want to do something just for my own child. Well, this is where you have your meeting, and then you have to say, all right, we need to have a plan. What's the plan for Johnny? What's the plan for Susie? What's the plan for Jack? What's the plan for my child? Once that's done, you need to go up the ladder. And by going up the ladder, this is where the two meet. This is where the systemic change and the system-wide change meet. When you meet up the ladder, you're basically saying, all right, this is working great for me, but you know what? I'm a squeaky wheel. I bet you there's at least one other parent that has these same concerns. So, would you be interested in doing this for all the children? Would you be interested in doing this for other people in the class? Would you be interested in doing this with your team teachers down the hall, the next grade level? And if they say yes, then you're in there. If they say, well, no, then you can say, well, I think it might be helpful. I'll help you. I'll guide you. And this is where you have the systemic change and the system-wide change meet together. And it becomes much more powerful because you've laid the groundwork for your own child with your own vested interest. But because you're a gifted parent, you know that the parent group over here in the systemic part, the system-wide part, they need this help too. So the two meet. So you see how we're coming full circle? We talked about advocacy. We've talked about the parent group focus. We've talked about the individual focus. And now we've come back around to the mixture of the two. It's very important. I want to talk to you a little bit about school board meetings. As a parent and as an advocate, you can go to school board meetings. It's a powerful, powerful tool. When you go to a school board meeting, you don't need to say anything necessarily. You just need to be present. Why are you present? Because the people on the board talk to the people that show up. You follow me? So if you show up, then all of a sudden they're not talking to other teachers, other administrators, other congressmen, or other councilmen. They're talking to you, and you are a parent. We talked about keeping people together, enlisting allies, being a hitchhiker. This is where the hitchhiking becomes effective. If you've got a system-wide change going on, and you mix it with a systemic change, and some of you on that parent group go to the board, the policies that that board begin to make affect you positively as a parent, because they see that you're engaged, they see that you know what you're talking about, and they see that you're going to be squeaky until your needs are met for the child. And that's the point. Persuasion. This particular slide talks about the timetable again, just to remind you that all this fabulous stuff is going on, but there's a time limit involved, and you need to remember that what are you going to really fight for, and what are you going to say, well, I'll give on this. Because remember, they have at least 12 good years of school. You don't want to do everything the first year. You got to keep going. And as I end today, I want to talk to you about the greater good. The work that you're doing is terribly difficult work. It's terribly challenging work. But you need to be the catalyst for others. Okay? You need to be the cheerleader for others. And then in turn, and likewise, they'll be the cheerleader for you. If you're going for the systemic change, if you're changing the system, go for it. Do everything you can. If you're going for the system-wide change, go for it like there's no tomorrow. And don't give up. So, I want to end with my last slide here with a summary of what's going to happen, of what's important. I'll give you a minute just to read these. Never assume that your child is learning. Just because they put that seat time in doesn't mean they're learning. It may mean they're surviving. It may mean they're adapting, but it doesn't mean that they're learning. So to ensure that they're learning as their greatest and most powerful and most competent ally, their greatest and most powerful and most competent advocate, ask questions. Listen carefully to the answers. Take action, whether individually or whole school. Remove emotion from the equation. Trust your instincts. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something and be able to take something away. Any questions, anyone? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say this is an awesome parent group just here tonight, because we're visiting actually as other teachers from other districts, and I'm actually from the Union County area up here, Tupelo and Uvalde, and so to see this many folks at a parent meeting, and that lets us know as teachers, and it lets the teachers know here in this community, you know what, we as parents care, and we're interested in what our students are learning. So this is, I appreciate this. I mean, this is great. And I'm from another district, but thank you.
Okay, applaud yourself.